But let's get right to business. We are going to be reading first from the Quran Questions for Moorish Americans from our Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And today's lesson is going to be about where is our national homeland. And I'm going to be reading from the Quran Questions, then from the Holy Quran, and then also from a law dictionary. First, let's read question 13, and it reads, what is your nationality? Because before we can just figure out where our homeland is, our national homeland, we need to know what our nation is and who we are. And we are Moorish Americans. Question 14 says, why are we Moorish American? Because we are descendants of Moroccans and born in America. And also, let me make a couple more links real quickly. It states in question 31, what is the modern name for the Moabites, Moroccans? Question, well, let me hold there. So, we are Moorish Americans because we are descendants of Moroccans and born in America. Then in question 31, it shows you connections between Moabites and Moroccans. So, Moorish Americans, this is us now. Our ancestors were Moroccans. Anciently, our ancestors were Moabites. So there's the connection. Moabites to Moroccans to Moorish American. And you'll be able to see the connections and the reason for understanding that connection as we go further. Question 32. Where is the Moroccan Empire? Or, our ancestors' empire, and we inherit that as the descendants, the Moorish Americans. So you can also read this as, where's the Moorish American Empire? The answer is Northwest Amexem. And it makes a connection in 33. What is the modern name for Amexem? Africa. So, the Moorish Americans Empire, and it's our empire because our ancestors, the Moroccans, are Moroccans, their empire, our empire, was Northwest Amexem. Currently, you can see it as Northwest Africa. You follow? Africa and Amexem, same thing. Now I'm going to put down the 101s, and I'm picking up the Holy Quran of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, divinely prepared by Noble Drew Ali, and I'm reading from chapter 47, entitled Egypt, the Capital Empire of the Dominion of Africa, or Amexem. And on line 6, I'll read from line 6. The Moabites, now this is speaking anciently, but if you follow the traces, the descendants of the Moabites, Moroccans, descendants of Moroccans, Moorish Americans. So we're talking about our family. The Moabites from the land of Moab, who received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle and inhabit northwest Africa. So that's how we got to that part to establish our empire, from the pharaohs of Egypt. They were the founders and are the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire. The Moabites, see the connection, Moabites to Moroccans, Moroccans to Moorish Americans, with their Canaanite, Hittite, and Amorite brethren who sojourned from the land of Canaan seeking new homes. And line 7, and this is very important because this is where it's going to be actionable and applicable information right now. Their dominion, and that's a law term, dominion, we'll come to it later, and inhabitation extended from northeast and southwest Africa across the great Atlantis, even unto the present north, south, and central America, and also Mexico and the Atlantis Islands, before the great earthquake which caused the great Atlantic Ocean. Let me read this one more time. Their dominion and inhabitation, the Moabites, or more modernly known as Moroccans, and us, Moorish Americans. Extended from northeast and southwest Africa across the Great Atlantis. So where we see the Atlantic Ocean now, you have to visualize that at one time there was a landmass called Atlantis. You can look this up. This is not just belief, not just opinion. Across the Great Atlantis, even onto the present North, South, and Central America. So from Africa, across the Atlantic, where it is now, or the Atlantis in ancient times, onto all of the Americas, and also Mexico, and the Atlantis Islands, the West Indies, and all of the Cuba, etc., etc. All the islands that you see there anciently were known as Atlantis Islands. Before the great earthquake which caused the great Atlantic Ocean. Now, that line, number 7 specifically, details our entire dominion. This is crossing 2 continents and the body of water that we see now, the Atlantic Ocean. The importance of that will be seen when you read, and I'm reading from Black's Law Dictionary, the 4th edition. And I'm reading the word dominion, which is on page 573. Dominion, ownership or right to property, or perfect or complete property or ownership. Title to an article of property which arises from the power of disposition and the right of claiming it. Sovereignty or lordship as the dominion of the seas. Yeah. Sovereignty or lordship, ownership, right to property. That's what dominion means in law. So, we understand that from the Quran questions, it established that the Moroccan Empire is Northwest Africa, northwest of Mexico. And then when you go into the Holy Quran, it further establishes that the dominion, our empire, and our dominion, our ownership, our right to claim, our sovereignty is not only just Northwest Africa or northwest of Mexico in the east or on the continent which we call Africa now, but that it spans across the Atlantis Ocean, the Atlantis or the Atlantic Ocean, and all of the North, South, and Central Americas, and the islands, and Mexico. All of that. So when we're asking the question, where's our homeland? There it is, laid out for us in detail. All of the Americas, Mexico, all of the islands, across the Atlantic Ocean, and when Atlantis rises again, it will be Atlantis as well, and onto Northwest Africa, and the coast of Northwest and Southwest Africa, which we see now as Morocco, Algeria, and the nations right along that coast there. Okay. Now, it's one thing for us just to read this in the Holy Quran and the Quran questions for Moorish Americans. But then it becomes, well, how do we apply this? Not just spiritually or metaphysically or mentally, which is important to know where our home is, where our ancestors were. That they were on both of the continents, that we call the Americas and Africa today. All of this was our homeland. But how do we apply that right now? Right? If you do a little research and you look up the nation state of Israel, they, based on some biblical scriptures that they use, and I apologize for not knowing in detail, but if you just look into the Zionist movement and their claim in 1948, I believe, with the assistance of the United Nations and some European nations in specific, they made a claim to the land to the Palestinians' land, to Palestine, and saying that that was actually Israel based on a biblical scripture. And, well, I'll leave my personal opinion or perspective on it, but the actual, the applicable way that they used information is they literally went to that land and said, well, based on this scripture, this is our land, and proceeded to take it over. And from 1948, their claim, they kept expanding and taking over more territory and more to the point where now they have our Palestinian sisters and brothers boxed in, enslaved in what is sometimes called open air prisons, in most notably the West Bank in Gaza. But all of Palestine is under occupation by this nation state of Israel based on biblical scriptures. I use that as an example to now look at ourselves based on our scriptures, right? But it's even deeper because we have historical and factual evidence to support what we're saying. But based on our scriptures, our claim and our land is all of the Americas. From the top up in Canada, peace to Brother Cujo, Canaan Land Moors, Canaan Land Temple up there, all the way down to Brazil, Argentina, Peru, all the way down in South America. All of that is our homeland. Not to mention the islands and Atlantis in the Atlantic Ocean and the northwest part of Africa. We have a right to make that claim as well. The key: we cannot make it as black people. We cannot make that claim as African American people. We cannot make that claim as people of color, colored folks, colored people, brown folks, Hispanics, Latinos, Ethiopians, niggers, Afro-Americans, Black Americans, Negroes. I think I covered all of them right now. But any of those terms, we will not have a valid claim to our land. And I can go back to the Holy Quran, chapter 47, line 9. According to all true and divine records of the human race, there is no Negro, black, or colored race attached to the human family. They don't exist. They were created, they were entities created by an occupying force posing as the true de jure government, and they are being used currently to enslave us mentally and through legal processes. But see, we have the right to proclaim our nationality. We have a right to be who we truly are: Moorish Americans, descendants of Moroccans and born in America, and have dominion and rule and ownership and a right to all of the Americas, all of the islands, and Northwest Africa over there in the east, on the continent what we call Africa now, Al-Kibulan. We have the right to make that claim, but we can only do it in our proper name, in propria persona, in one's own proper person. That's a law term. I'm not making this up. This is not my opinion. This is not a belief system. This is not my feelings on it. We can do this right now, today. We no longer have to rent on our own land. We no longer have to pay property taxes, etc., etc., etc. But we got to be in our proper person. We have to be ourselves. Know thyself. That's the key. I think that's all for today. I want you to look up, once again, the Holy Quran of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, divinely prepared by the noble prophet Drew Ali. The Quran Questions for Moorish Americans. Also, Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. Get those books Do some studying, for man knows not by being told. A wise brother once taught me. Don't believe what is being said. Don't believe the information. Verify for yourself so that you will know. Islam. And with that, I'm going to close with the prayer. 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is our protector, our guide, and our salvation, by night and by day, through our holy prophet, Noble Jew Ali. Islam, Islam, Islam.